Dublin, Ireland. A cold wind pressed against the gym windows as the echo of punches reverberated through the concrete walls. In the center of the cage stood a man with a lion's grin and a predator's stare. Conor Anthony McGregor. A name that ricocheted across pubs and penthouses alike. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a brand, a soundbite, a walking headline dressed in silk suits and tattooed promises. He believed in one religion, fame. But what made Conor different wasn't just his left hand, it was his tongue. He could turn a press conference into a war zone, with every insult, every smirk, every glass of whiskey held high. He wasn't just selling a fight, he was rewriting the rules of modern combat. Meanwhile, 4,000 kilometers away in Dagestan, a different fire burned. Not flashy. Not loud. Khabib Nurmagomedov trained like a ghost, silent, relentless, unbending. No velvet coats, no tweets. Just mountains, sweat, and legacy. While Conor shadowboxed in Versace, Khabib wrestled bears in the forest and prayed. At dawn. Their collision wasn't chance. It was design. Two worlds. Two codes. Two egos forged in opposite elements, one in the bright lights of notoriety, the other in the shadows of discipline. But as every fight fan knows, opposites don't attract in the octagon. They explode. The lead-up to UFC 229 wasn't a fight camp, it was psychological warfare. Conor arrived late to media events, sunglasses on, grin locked and loaded. He called Khabib a coward, an amateur, mocked his religion, his family, his country. Dagestani rats, he said once, his voice soaked in venom. The crowd laughed. Khabib didn't, he never laughed. Behind the calm expression, something inside Khabib began to churn, cold, heavy, ancient, not anger, something deeper. Dishonor. At the Barclays Center, Conor took it further. He threw a dolly through the window of Khabib's team. Bus shards of glass and ego flew through headlines worldwide. People called it madness. The UFC called it marketing. Khabib called it one word, unforgivable. Yet when fight night came, all the noise faded. The lights dimmed. Bruce Buffer's voice boomed. Two men entered. Only one would leave with pride. Round 1. Khabib didn't strike. He dragged Conor into deep waters, into unfamiliar territory. Into silence. Every takedown echoed louder than 1,000 insults. Conor's cocky grin faded. Blood replaced it. The Irish Lion looked up from the matan for the first time in years. He looked small. Round 2. Khabib dropped him. With a punch, the striker outstruck the striker. Commentators gasped. Fans stood. In that moment, the mountain proved it could speak with fists. 2. Then came the fourth. A choke. A squeeze. Conor tapped not just with his hand, but with his spirit. It should have ended there. But Khabib stood up, stared into the sea of jeering fans, and leaped over the cage like a man possessed. He flew into Conor's corner, fists swinging, legacy on the line. Fighters brawled, security stormed. The fight was over, but the war had just begun. The Nevada Commission suspended Khabib. Conor went silent. The UFC profited. But something deeper had cracked. What had begun as ego had turned into something much darker, a blood feud. After UFC 229, the world paused, but neither fighter did. Khabib returned to Dagestan not as a fighter, but as a legend. The quiet man who silenced the loudest voice in sports. In the mountains, they built statues. Old men nodded in respect. Young boys renamed their sons after him. But he didn't smile. Not really, because Khabib hadn't fought just for a belt. He had fought for honor. And what he'd done after jumping the cage was dishonor in his father's eyes. Abdulmanap, his mentor, his compass, his reason, said only one sentence: control your soul, or you'll lose everything. Khabib promised to walk a different path. Conor, meanwhile, vanished into fog. His whiskey sold millions. His posts stayed loud. But in private, the man behind the bravado unraveled. The loss haunted him. Notorious wasn't supposed to tap, not supposed to fall. But he had. And worse, Khabib had made him look ordinary. He replayed the choke in his head like a national anthem, stuck on repeat. Fame didn't fix it. Money didn't mend it. Something inside him roared. This isn't how my story ends. He returned to training, not for belts, not for records, for revenge. The world shut down. COVID spread. Gyms closed. Fights got canceled. But rumors never die. Conor wanted a rematch. He tweeted, teased, taunted, posted sparring videos with captions like, mountain meat on my fork. He tagged Khabib over and over, no response. Because Khabib wasn't in training. He was in mourning. Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov died from COVID complications in July. Khabib's compass was gone. The man who taught him to wrestle in rivers, pray 5 times a day, and forgive enemies was gone. And yet, he fought once more. UFC 254. Against Gethka. Khabib won with elegance. Submission, second round. Then he cried in the octagon. And retired. No theatrics, no press tour. Just tears, prayer, and silence. Conor didn't believe it. Retired but still ducking. He wrote, but Khabib didn't answer. The mountain had gone still. And that silence. It tortured Conor more than a loss ever could. Asterisk late. 2023. An anonymous message arrived at the UFC offices. Handwritten, no return address. It was delivered in a small envelope, sealed in wax. Inside was a note. Pride doesn't sleep. Mountains don't forget. Tell him I'll be waiting in Riyadh. Eagle Dana White smiled when he read it. He didn't ask who sent it. He already knew. Within a week, headlines exploded. Khabib vs. Conor 2, Final Reckoning, UFC Saudi Arabia special event. Neither man said a word. Conor posted a photo of his fists and black wraps. Caption, no cage can hold this storm. Khabib posted nothing. But Dagestan News leaked training footage. Quiet roads. Long runs. The mountain moved again. The world split in two. Half wanted redemption. Half wanted closure. Everyone wanted blood. In Riyadh, a new arena was built in 19 days. Golden, silent, enormous. They called it the Dome of Discipline. There would be no title, no press tour, just ego and consequence. Asterisk, January 4, 2024. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. As the desert winds howled outside the glowing structure, a hush fell over the 70,000 fans packed into the Golden Dome of Discipline. No DJs, no dancers, no light show. Just a single drumbeat. Walked out first. No smile, no entourage. Just his father's photo stitched into his robe. He didn't look at the crowd. Didn't raise a hand. He was there for one reason only. Closure. Then came Conor. Emerald robe, gold trim. His music played, but he didn't dance. His walk was slow, eyes locked forward, lips repeating the same word. Today, the shame ends. Today, he becomes legend again. The bell rang. And the world held its breath. Asterisk, round 1. The familiar dance of Khabib pressed early, clinching, dragging. But Conor sharper, calmer stuffed the takedown. The crowd gasped. Was this a new version of McGregor? He smiled, spoke into Khabib's ear. Missed me, champ. But Khabib didn't answer with words. He answered with a body lock and a slam that shook the canvas. Control position, pressure. End of round 1. Khabib. Round 2. Blood and fire. Conor came out swinging. Left hook, elbow, body shot. He caught Khabib clean twice. Blood dripped from Khabib's eyebrow. The mountain bled. For a moment, Conor grinned like old times, until Khabib shot and lifted him again. The round ended in scrambles. One judge called it even. One gave it to Khabib. 1-2 CONOR. Round 3. The ego break. This was no longer a fight. It was a confession. Both men fought like the other held the key to their redemption. Every punch screamed, "You are my unfinished chapter." Then, in the final minute of round 3, it happened. Khabib went for a takedown. Conor sprawled. The crowd roared. Then Conor landed an uppercut. Clean, brutal. Khabib staggered. The Irishman pounced, throwing elbows, fists, knees, and in a moment no one believed would come, Khabib fell. For the first time in his professional career, he dropped. The referee dove in. Khabib wasn't unconscious, but he was done. It was over. Asterisk, Conor didn't raise his hands. He didn't scream. He sat on his knees, staring at Khabib's still body, breathing like a man pulled from deep water. When Bruce Buffer called the result, the arena shook. Winner by the notorious Conor McGregor. But Conor didn't smile. He walked over, knelt beside Khabib, and whispered something no microphone caught. Later, he told Rogan backstage, "I said, now we're even." Khabib retired again. Quietly, no press, no tweets. Conor held no press conference, either. In the days that followed, fans argued endlessly. Conor won, but only one time. Khabib still the better fighter. Overall, they need a trilogy. But neither man spoke again. They had buried the feud in fists, blood, and silence. Asterisk, years later, documentaries would dissect every punch. Young fighters would study both as legends of opposite philosophies. Khabib, the silent mountain. Conor, the roaring flame. But the truth lived only in that ring. On that night, when ego found its end, and two kings fought not for victory, but for peace. Asterisk, before you even think about scrolling to the next video, let me ask you something. What does victory really mean to you? Is it the roar of the crowd, the flash of the cameras, the fat paycheck, or that private, aching moment in the locker room when no one else is looking and you finally let the tears fall? When you watched Conor step back into that cage, after all the bruised egos and broken promises, did a tiny part of you want him to fail just so you could prove that flamboyant pride always crashes back to earth?